Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Brian Gary. I am the chair of the Olathe Chamber of Commerce Business to Government Advocacy Committee. It's my honor to moderate today's forum. And today we have the candidate forum for District 78, Kansas House District 78, which runs, northern border of 143rd Street, and southern border of 167th. Black Bob is the eastern border, and western border jigsaw is kind of Merlin down and up to 151st and I-35. So that's kind of where we're looking at, kind of the southeast, south central, part of Olathe here. The Johnson County Public Policy Council, which is comprised of the 10 Johnson County Chambers of Commerce, developed today's questions that focus on our business and community issues here in the area. So I'm going to introduce our candidates today in alphabetical order. First, here immediately to my left, Republican candidate Robyn Essex. Robyn has served our community as a city councilwoman, a planning commissioner, emergency response team member, a Rotarian, and Sunday school teacher. She's participated in the Olathe Civic Academy, the Olathe Public Schools Citizen Academy, and the Eisenhower Leadership Series, along with mentoring middle and high school students. Robyn's a graduate of Olathe own Mid-American Nazarene University, and she and her husband Steve, who is a middle school teacher, have 3 sons who attended Olathe and Blue Valley schools. Robyn's called Olathe home for 38 years. Robyn, welcome.
Thank you.
And our Democratic candidate, Mr. Dan Goodman. Dan is a lifelong Kansan, raised in South Central Kansas farming community. He moved to Olathe 34 years ago in 1990. He worked for the state of Kansas as an administrator in aging services for 18 years, served as the director of Johnson County's Area Agency on Aging for 13 years, and currently serves as executive director of Kansas Advocates for Better Care, which is a nonprofit dedicated to improving the quality of long-term care for older Kansans. He also serves on the Johnson County Commission on Aging and serves as a liaison to the Board of County Commissioners concerning the needs of older adults in Johnson County. Dan and his wife Jennifer have 3 children. His daughters attended Olathe schools, and his son is a freshman at Spring Hill High School. Dan, welcome. Thanks for being here, both of you. So we're going to start with opening statements from each of the candidates. They will each last up to 3 minutes. We would follow that by a Q&A session where each candidate will have 90 seconds, a minute and a half to answer the question. And then at the conclusion of the Q&A portion of the forum, that each candidate will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. Due to time constraints, there will be no follow-up questions, no formal rebuttals, or audience participation by any kind. So please note the candidate's speaking order was randomly determined prior to the forum, and then we'll rotate and alternate back and forth throughout the program. So let's get started with these candidates' opening statement. And candidate 1 was pulled by Dan. Dan pulled number 1, so he gets to go first. Dan, you'll have 3 minutes to present your opening statement, highlighting why you're seeking office.
Thank you for the invitation, interest in my campaign. My name is Dan Goodman, and I'm running for Kansas State House District 78, which is in southeast Olathe. My goal is to bring true representation to our community, ensuring that the interests and values of our residents are heard in Topeka. Southeast Olathe is a great place to live. I'm proud to call it home. I'm running to make a difference by representing the values of the people who elect me. For over 30 years, I held leadership positions, including overseeing aging services for the state of Kansas, directing Johnson County Area Agency on Aging, coaching local high school football, and currently serving as the executive director for Kansas Advocates for Better Care. My career reflects a commitment to servant leadership and public service. My campaign priorities sharply contrast my opponents. I fully support public schools and oppose school vouchers. I stand for reproductive freedom. Will work to improve long-term care options for older Kansans, and will strive to reduce property tax burdens, particularly for those on fixed incomes. Finally, I'm committed to a bipartisanship collaboration to achieve the best outcomes for residents in the district. It's incredibly frustrating to see our current representative vote in lockstep with their party. Truly, she voted with her party 99% of the time. I promised to engage in honest conversations, seek common ground, and deliver better results for the community. Here's the bottom line. When elected in November, I'll represent you and not the same old party politics. I'm Dan Goodman, running for State House, 78.
Thank you. And Robyn, you now have up to 3 minutes to give your opening statement highlighting why you are seeking office.
All right. Well, we were told 2 minutes, so I'll keep it short.
Or prostate. Thanks.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Thank you to the Olathe Chamber, Natalie Bright, for this well-organized event. Out of all the forums and surveys that we are doing in this campaign, this is one of my favorites, and it's a priority. And I want to thank Brian Geary for being our moderator and keeping us in line. Super important job. I've lived in Olathe. You've heard this already, but I'm going to repeat some of it. I've lived in Olathe for 38 years now, and I received my bachelor's degree in business administration with a psychology emphasis from our hometown university, Mid-American Nazarene University. Go Pioneers. It was there that I met my husband, a public school teacher and a coach for 34 years now. And we decided that Olathe is where we wanted to live and raise our family. We have 3 sons who all attended Olathe Public Schools. My oldest is an internal medicine resident at the University of Kansas Hospital. My middle son works in the computer science field. And my youngest is a junior at Northwest Missouri State on a football scholarship. And I'm going to say go Bearcats too. My professional background is mostly in education. I was a corporate trainer in my earlier years, and I then taught preschool, served as a library and kindergarten aide in our public elementary schools, and was an active volunteer and member of the PTO. I've served on the Olathe Planning Commission as well as other local boards. I have a unique perspective because I have served at all levels of government. Local as an Olathe City Councilwoman, statewide as a legislator, and federal as an immigration and passport caseworker in the United States Senate. In the State House, I serve on 5 committees, 5, transportation, local government, insurance, water, and elections. And I wear my local control hat often in these committees, as we often hear bills that affect our cities and counties. The reason I do this job is simply because of the people. In the last 3 years, I've knocked on 10,000 doors, actually more than 10,000 doors. When I talk to Olathe families and small business owners, they all tell me the same thing: taxes, insurance, healthcare, cost of living. Everything costs too much. It's weighing on everyone. And inflation, it's only driving it higher. Partisan fights won't fix it. People are tired of the divisiveness and attacks in this political climate. Now is the time to focus on solutions. I will continue to be an independent voice that will work with both parties to get things done. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so thank you both for giving us the background on why you're running. So now we'll move to our Q&A session, which each candidate will have 90 seconds, minute and a half, each to respond, and the speaking order will alternate with each question. So, Robyn, you'll answer this question first, and I'm going to ask you on this first one to be as specific as you can. And what are your views on state tax policy?
Okay, it's one of my favorite topics.
Great, somebody asked.
Right. I'm glad to hear that. Our tax policy must be competitive, fair, ensure stability, provide adequate funding for our obligations, and be simple as well as transparent. I advocated to help our seniors to eliminate Social Security taxes, increase property tax exemptions. It's the most hated tax, by the way, property tax, and eliminate sales tax on food this past session. And I'm proud to say that our new tax plan includes all these components. We also simplified our income tax structure from 3 brackets to 2. A super important piece of this is that with the increased standard deduction and the substantial personal exemption increases for dependents, this will help low-income families the most. I want to make sure and get that across. Despite the nasty rumors out there, many low-income earners will not have to pay income taxes at all. I will add that the city of Olathe also came through with property tax rebate programs for low-income residents as well as veterans. This is an example of working together to help those in need the most. It's a beautiful thing. And I always hear all the time how childcare is like another mortgage. We heard and we acted. The tax credit for household and dependent care expenses jumped from 25% to 50%. Lastly, I just want to share a special moment. that we had in the Kansas House this year. I know Natalie might have been a part of this as well, but for the first time ever, we had a unanimous vote on tax relief. And it happened more than once. Can you imagine that? Even in the midst of vetoes, we all came together to fight for the people. There might have been a few hugs and tears on the floor. It was pretty amazing. The final version passed out of the House 121-2, and it was an awesome experience to be a part of. We have more work to do, but this was a great start.
Great, thank you. Dan, again, I'll mention, be as specific as you can on your views on state tax policy, please.
Okay. A common sense approach to state tax policy should prioritize simplicity, fairness, and economic growth. The elimination of taxes on Social Security was a positive step for older Kansans, but it's just a start. I would support more discussion about freezing property tax rates for residents age 65 and older, keeping their property taxes stable. Additionally, policies that promote economic growth, such as incentives for investment or innovation, can expand the tax base and increase revenue without raising rates. Balancing these elements of tax policy creates a stable and prosperous environment for all residents, regardless of economic status.
Great, thank you. All right, moving to question 2, and Daniel, answer first on this one, please. What are your views on K-12 education funding and accessibility?
I believe fully funding of our public schools and ensuring education tax dollars stay within public schools is essential to quality learning. To build a strong educational workforce, we must increase incentives to attract and retain both new and existing teachers. Maintaining local control allows communities to address their unique needs and priorities, making education more effective. While the legislature came close to fully funding public schools this election, special education is currently funded at 75% of what the state law requires. My opponent voted for school vouchers, which would have threatened public school funding. I will not support school vouchers.
Okay, thank you. Robyn, what are your views on K-12 education funding and accessibility?
All right, thanks for the question. Wanted to address real quick the school voucher issue. That was early in the legislative process, and I will share that it had special education attached to it, extra funding in a substantial amount, as well as required teacher salary increases. Honestly, that was stage 1 of a bill. It was very early in the process. And yes, anytime we don't have a special education funding bill, but this was the avenue that we could have passed substantial special ed, I voted for that. Teacher salary increases, who would argue with that? So the fact that it was coupled with other things, that was something that we used as a negotiating tool. So education savings accounts eventually did fail, and I support funding public schools. I'll get into that in just a minute. But a successful community obviously starts with strong schools. We must continue to ensure that our schools are constitutionally funded and that our teachers are not using their hard-earned income to compensate for the shortages. Attracting new teachers and teacher retention is super important for accessibility. We need to make sure our state is competitive with both teacher salaries and benefits. We also need to pay our classified staff a living wage. I used to be in classified staff. Many of these positions are going unfilled because of the high stress that comes with these jobs and the low pay. Nobody wants our classrooms stuffed wall to wall with students while we are experiencing a shortage of paras and aides. I have lived with this and witnessed this firsthand. Our school counselors, psychologists, and nurses all need to be secure positions in their role, and it's vital to our students. We need to work together with our school districts to make sure that they have the funding they need, but also be responsible stewards of our money. We are accountable to the taxpayers, and we need to be on top of any wasteful spending. Our main goal should be to fund the things that directly affect our students and their outcomes. I'd like to see more money directed at our classrooms where it's needed the most. Is my time up? Okay. I had more, but I'll come back later. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you both. And Robyn, you will answer first on this question. Question number 3, what types of economic development policies do you support to encourage both job growth and business expansion in the state of Kansas?
All right. Well, that's a big one. I see infrastructure and workforce development, regulatory reform as a big one, innovation, and small business support as most important. These focuses, coupled with the right incentives, will encourage business growth and economic development. An example of effective economic tool is Star Bonds. You might have heard that lately in the news. I voted yes to use this tool to provide a revenue source to bring our professional sports teams to Kansas. This provides provisions for cities, counties, the state, and investors to work together for this extraordinary opportunity. It's estimated to have $1 billion impact on our state if we do attract the Chiefs and the Royals and whoever else, who knows, right? We want to make sure we are a destination, attracting the right businesses to our state, providing adequate and affordable housing for our workforce, focusing on our quality of life, and keeping up with the infrastructure. These are all key elements to a strong economy. This will also benefit our taxpayers if we're able to expand our tax base with new businesses to shoulder some of that tax burden. And of course, business expansion provides job opportunities, which increases the amount of people earning income, which then will stimulate our economy. I am committed to making our state business friendly, and I'm open to new legislation that will cut the red tape on excess regulation and costly fees. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And Dan, I'll repeat the question for you. What types of economic development policies do you support to encourage job growth and business expansion in Kansas?
Well, I would support providing tax incentives and credits to businesses when they create jobs, invest in infrastructure, or engage in research and development that stimulates economic growth and expansion. I support investing in education and vocational training, which builds a skilled workforce that meets the demands of modern industry, making our state more attractive to employers. I support strengthening infrastructure, such as transportation, utilities, digital connectivity, ensuring businesses can operate and grow. Additionally, grants, low-interest loans, mentorship programs all help businesses overcome financial barriers. I will support policies that benefit our working families and all residents in the district.
Great, thank you. Daniel, go first on this question as well. What would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
I will focus on enhancing education and training programs, foster partnerships between industry and educational institutions, and provide continuous learning provide continuous learning opportunities. Invest in K-12 education, vocational training, higher education to equip individuals with relevant skills, encourage apprenticeships, internships to bridge the gap between education and employment, support workforce development initiatives that promote reskilling and ensuring workers can adapt to evolving industry demands. All these strategies that create a skilled, adaptable, competitive workforce ready to meet the demands of the dynamic economy.
Thank you. Robyn, I'll repeat the question for you. What would you do to grow and develop the state's workforce?
Well, I always brag about Olathe's 21st Century program. I always start there. That's available in our high schools. Some have similar programs, but I think ours is the best. I might be biased. We should be the model for other school districts to prepare students for the workforce. I love to tell success stories of programs like our Public Safety Academy at Olathe West. We're seeing more students being equipped early on. But the best part is we have the added benefit of growing our own. We want this next generation to stay here long-term and raise their families here. We're seeing family legacies built around these professions, and it's just awesome. This also provides the opportunity for students to have early exposure to these fields to see if this is the right fit before they spend money on college courses that they later don't want to pursue. We need to promote STEM education for high-demand fields and expand vocational training apprenticeships and adult learning opportunities. They're all key to keeping employee skills sharp with this ever-changing demand of these industries. Reducing regulation, and that's without sacrificing safety and quality, and promoting short-term certification programs would get people to work sooner. I really like the concept of mentorship programs that connect new entrepreneurs with experienced business leaders. Our own Olathe Chamber has been effective in fostering these relationships with networking events that highlight our business community. It's pretty awesome to see those relationships being fostered. I don't know if you guys pay attention, but there's chamber coffees and groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings. they're a constant reminder to our city of what we have here and what we're continuing to grow our business population. The state can also play a part in this by exploring public and private partnerships that can help expand opportunities and foster those relationships.
Great, thank you. You both have mentioned education a few times. This next question about that. Robyn, you'll go first. What are your views on the state's role with respect to ensuring access and affordability of post-secondary education?
All right. Well, half the battle is showing students that financial resources are already out there. A one-stop shop, place to apply for scholarships, grants, and other financial opportunities is always a good idea. I believe the Board of Kansas Regents is working on this, or who have kind of started this. I support expansion of undergraduate scholarships and grants for targeted and high-need industries, low-income students, and the military. The legislature is continually adding options to help with affordability through scholarships, grants, and subsidies. This past session, we passed the eMERGE program. It's a very long acronym, so I'm going to stick with eMERGE, and it's for Army and the Air National Guard members. This program helps in two ways. We have a shortage in enlistments, and we want to encourage more education. So if members apply and are selected for this Kansas program, they'll be required to serve 4 more years in the National Guard upon completion of their master's degree. I also support expanding programs like the Kansas Learning Quest College Savings Program. This offers tax advantages under state and federal law, and the Midwest Student Exchange Program. We can also partner with businesses again to share in the cost of scholarships or tuition reimbursement programs for their future employees. We have a good foundation, but I'll continue to research ways to make college more affordable.
Great, thank you. Dan, I'll read a question for you again. What are your views on the state's role with respect to ensuring accessibility and affordability of post-secondary education?
Well, I strongly support the state's proactive role in ensuring access to affordable post-secondary education. Investing in scholarships, grants, low-income, low-interest loans, we can make higher education attainable for all students regardless of financial background. Additionally, funding community colleges and vocational training programs offers diverse pathways to success, equipping individuals with skills needed in today's job market. This commitment to education empowers individuals and strengthens the state economy by fostering well-educated, skilled workforce.
Great, thank you. And you will answer first on this next one. There's been a lot of discussion about foreign land ownership and leasing, as well as purchasing equipment containing foreign manufactured parts. What factors do you consider when attempting to balance national security concerns versus free enterprise and private property rights?
Well, let me start with the simple part first. We should always encourage Kansas to buy local and American-made products whenever possible, provided they are similar quality and cost. The rest of the question seems to lead toward performative politics, and I would rather spend my time working on solutions for Kansans. Foreign land ownership and national security concerns are issues best addressed at the federal level.
Okay, thank you. Robyn, I'll ask you the same question. There's been a lot of discussion on the foreign land ownership, as well as purchasing equipment containing foreign manufactured parts. What factors do you consider when attempting to balance national security concerns against free enterprise and private property rights?
That is a balance. The state actually plays a pretty large role in this. The KBI recently briefed legislators on live consequential threats posed by foreign nationals. This included value-rich targets, such as military bases and other national security infrastructure. This prompted the Kansas Land and Military Installation Protection Act to be drafted, and although this bill did not pass, it did have some noteworthy requirements that would protect our state from those who want to do us harm, such as requiring a registry with the Kansas AG office, Attorney General, who would enhance security oversight. We will probably see this bill again in some form or fashion, but we'll make changes and improve it. So it'll do the best to keep us safe, but also keep our free market alive. I'm supportive of robust screening mechanisms, appropriate restrictions on critical sectors, and transparency. But we need to balance national security with economic growth. It's important to get feedback from all stakeholders, including the agriculture and farming industry, business community, and the military. Any retroactive active parts to this type of legislation must be examined to ensure we aren't negatively impacting legitimate businesses and investors. One notable bill that we did pass this year creates the Countries of Concern, all these acronyms, I'm trying to get them right. The Countries of Concern Divestment Act, which requires state-managed fund divestment from investments with countries of concern and prohibits investments in deposits with a bank or company domiciled in a country of concern. So we did do the financial piece of it, but we do have some others to take a look at. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Robyn, you'll answer this one first. A question that I feel like we have asked in the past, but what are your views on healthcare policy and Medicaid expansion?
Okay. The topic of the hour. I will share that Medicaid is a vital part of our healthcare system. I recently talked to a family member who shared their challenge, not family member, a family at the doors as I was knocking and talking to constituents. And they have a disabled child and they just can't seem to get in for services in a timely manner. I mean, we're talking a very, very long time. And I could see the stress in their voice and in their faces when they talked about it. We then had a conversation about expansion, and we agreed that as good as the messaging around expansion sounds, the reality is that we are only going to exacerbate an already overwhelmed program. We must ensure the most vulnerable are being taken care of first. We can learn from challenges in other expansion states, which include unexpected expenditures, quality of care issues, long wait times, and reduced access to shrinking participating providers. Costs of the program have grown faster than the GDP and have led to concerns of sustainability. Once Medicaid expansion takes place, it's not a reversible program, no matter what the unforeseen circumstances are. So we want to make sure, if we do this down the road, that we are really investigating what we're doing. Fraud is a big problem that needs to be fixed. Federal funds are temporary and unpredictable. And by the way, it's not free money that you might have heard. It's still taxpayer money, just out of a different fund. This past session, we immediately got to work on these issues. We targeted funding where it's needed most. We increased provider reimbursement rates and focused on our rural hospitals. We expanded eligibility for rural emergency hospital licensure so more small hospitals can maintain access to emergency care in underserved regions. We have more avenues to explore to improve access to healthcare, which includes cost-sharing programs. I know you've heard of MediShare and Christian Healthcare Ministries, which has a high satisfaction rating. The concept of Medicaid HSAs and expansion of FQHCs, Federally Qualified Health Center providers. These are some other options. There are actually many families that have children that qualify for Medicaid now, but don't even realize it. We need to educate these families with young children, seniors, and our disabled community to make sure they get access to these services before we expand to other populations. We all want to make healthcare more affordable and accessible, but we must do it in a responsible way without sacrificing the most vulnerable.
Okay, thank you. And I will move this on over to Dan. Your views on healthcare policy and Medicaid expansion.
Okay. Well, I've made it clear that I support preserving reproductive freedom because I believe no Kansan, especially my daughters, should have fewer rights than previous generations. As for Medicaid, expanding Medicaid offers a strong return on investment for Kansas. It closes coverage gaps, especially for low-income individuals, while reducing uncompensated care costs for hospitals. By increasing federal funding and lowering state emergency care expenses, it supports preventive health care, leading to better health outcomes and economic stability. Medicaid expansion particularly benefits rural Kansas, contributing to a healthier, more productive population, key to the state's growth. Here's the bottom line. Unlike my opponent, I fully support Medicaid expansion and will support the preservation of reproductive freedom for women.
Okay, thank you. And Dan, you will answer our final question first here. How control over decision-making is very divided among people on the state legislature versus local governments, including local school boards, on issues such as taxation, economic development, and educational issues. What are your views on this issue that in the control over the decision-making process? Yes, Dan, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I support municipalities retaining the ability to make fiscal and policy decisions that best serve their residents. The local control ensures decisions are made in keeping with the city's comprehensive development plans. The pattern of residential, commercial, and industrial development is best determined at the local level. Take our public school system, for example. Beyond the state's aspiration to fully fund public education, local governance plays a key role in decisions like school building projects, which shape the learning environment. Quality public education is the economic engine for Johnson County, attracting families to our area and driving growth. Both state and local governments have important roles, but again, I support municipalities retain the ability to make the fiscal and policy decisions when possible.
All right, Robyn, I'm going to ask you this as well. How control over decision-making is divided among the state legislature and local governments, including local school boards, on issues such as taxation, economic development, and education has been a matter of debate. What are your views on this issue?
Well, local control is a very important concept. It's actually constitutionally protected. As a member of the Olathe City Council and a member of the House Committee on Local Government, I am keenly aware of the importance of local control. We see many bills come through our committee, and a lot of us that are members on local government have served, or on the state level, have served in local government. And a lot of us are like, wait a minute, is this our business? Is this something we should be discussing? Just like we wouldn't want the federal government involved in our business, or the cities involved in making decisions for the state. So we need to stay in our lane, that's for sure. There's sometimes opportunities to help the local cities, but for the most part, we need to stay out of their business. I will say seeing policy through the local government lens has provided me the opportunity to stop these bills in their tracks when I see the overreach. And local government, I don't have to tell you this, quick answer, is closest to the people. And it's better in touch with what the cities need. That is why municipalities need to retain ability to make fiscal and policy decisions that are best for their communities, and obviously school district decisions. For perspective, I have a friend that always reminds me that Olathe can vote for 4 out of 7 of their city council people, but their state representative, they get to vote for 1 out of 125. So he always walks up to me and says, 4 of 7, 1 of 125. So kind of a cool statement. But anyway, for perspective, thank you.
Thank you. So this concludes our Q&A portion of the forum, and we will move to the closing statements, which each candidate will have 2 minutes on this one. So I'm sure Robyn, you're ready with 2 minutes, right? And Dan as well, to present your closing statements, and be sure to highlight what most distinguishes you from your opponent. And Robyn, you will go first.
All right. Well, what most distinguishes me is experience and perspective. I've served in all 3 levels of government. I understand the process of how these systems work together and how to actually get things done. I am an independent voice that represents the people, not a party, and I'm not a lobbyist. Again, my alliance and allegiance is to the Kansans and the people of District 78. And just to address what you might have heard sprinkled throughout my opponent's answers, I absolutely support our Olathe Public Schools, and I have a record that shows I repeatedly voted to fully fund them. In fact, we fully funded our schools for 6 years and counting, so I just would refer you to either my voting record or the governor's own press releases and social media. I also advocated for additional special education funding, which we actually funded it beyond the governor's original proposal, and I voted for teacher salary increases. In fact, I introduced a bill this year that would improve teacher pensions for those currently in Tier 3 of CAPERS. I'm working on other legislation that will hopefully keep our teachers in their profession for their entire career. On the topic of women's healthcare decisions, look, the people have spoken. This issue has been settled, and abortion remains protected in the Kansas Constitution. We did not have any bills on this topic in my 2 years in the legislature. However, I did vote on bipartisan legislation that supports and protects women and families, such as making it a crime to coerce someone into an abortion against their will, access to data that's already being collected to help provide resources to women that are faced with unplanned pregnancies, and the creation of the adoption savings account. I mean, that's wonderful. Constituent feedback has actually been very positive. So I just want to share, when it comes to politics today, we need less talk, more listening, better solutions. Good ideas don't come with a partisan label. That's why I focus on bringing people together, always have. to deliver real results. I'll work with anyone to fight for tax relief, grow our economy, improve our health care, keep our streets safe, and ensure our schools remain fully funded and top-ranked. I've so enjoyed my conversations on your doorsteps and driveways. What I've experienced is something that I already know. Olathe is a special place. The people truly care about each other, and they understand what is at stake. The Olathe spirit and our common bond will propel us forward. Together, we're finding a better way. For more information, you can find me on Facebook at Representative Robyn Essex or visit my website at robynforkansas.com. I hope to earn your vote on November 5th.
Great. Thank you. And Dan, your closing statement, please.
Yes. Well, what distinguishes most from my opponent? I would say that I have integrity, original thoughts on issues, will not cower to extremist party politics or party leadership. I'm running for office because I believe in fully funding public schools, including special education, and ensuring education tax dollars stay within the public school system. I stand for preserving reproductive freedom for women and increasing care options and tax support for older Kansans to help them age in their homes. My opponent's voting record shows that she does not support any of these critical issues. The contrast has motivated me every day of my campaign and will fight for the values, interests, and needs of our community. Residents of House District 78, if you're tired of officials who blindly follow the party instead of representing our values, I'm with you. I have 30-year history of advocating for Kansans. My opponent votes in favor of school vouchers that would threaten public school funding. She opposes Medicaid expansion, weakening our healthcare system, and she has voted for laws that limit reproductive freedom for women. These policies do not reflect our values. I'm Dan Goodman. It's time that Kansas House District 78 had a representative that works for them.
Great, thank you. So that concludes our forum for House District 78. I want to thank both Dan Goodman and Robyn Essex for your participation and for running for office and again, taking part in today's program. On behalf of the Olathe Chamber of Commerce and all the area Johnson County chambers, thank you to everyone taking advantage of this important opportunity to learn more about our candidates. For more information about the candidates, videos of these and other candidate forums, and advanced voting details, please visit www.votejoco.com. And please share this with your voter resource with your colleagues, your family, and your friends. And with that, thank you again for watching or attending. We are adjourned.
Thank you so much.